Welcome. I'm Gordon McFarlane. I'm a member of the PPMA board and day job is Director of HR and OD in Newham in East London. Really glad to welcome Tim McEwen, who works for My Money Matters, and Tim will introduce himself in a bit more detail in a second. Just a quick apology for last week. You were expecting to join and we had some technical problems, so had to pull the plug at the last minute. So thank you for joining this week. Just in terms of how the webinar will work, Tim will do a presentation. We've got about 30 minutes. We'll finish about 12:30. There should be time towards the end for any questions, comments, etc. If there's anything through the presentation, feel free to use the chat and put some comments and questions in. I'll pick those up, but may draw you in just to comment or ask questions later on. We are recording it. The recording will be available via the PPMA website afterwards for those who haven't been able to get on the call. And I think without further ado, I shall hand over to Tim.
Okay, thank you, Gordon. I will just share my screen. Gordon, if you can tell me you can see it,
I can see it.
We are good to go. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Financial Wellbeing and Maximising Cost Efficiency. As Gordon alluded to, my name is Tim McEwen. I am a Business Development Director here at My Money Matters. I have worked with local government pension schemes and AVCs for over 20 years. I've been a business development director at My Money Matters now for over 3. So I know a little bit about your scheme, let's just say. But who are My Money Matters? We were founded in 2018 as AVC-wise to deliver education in the workplace around the local government pension scheme and AVCs, including shared cost AVCs, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later on. Earlier this year, we rebranded to My Money Matters with the intention of broadening our services. And that's really to appeal to a wider section of your workforce. Gordon and I were just talking about that, actually. We know that not everyone is interested in pensions and AVCs, but they may be interested in mortgage advice, savings and investments, etc. Now, on screen at My Money Matters, you'll see some of our partners. We currently partner with just over half of the PPMA employers who can launch a shared cost AVC. And straight hot off the press this morning, we've saved those partners just over £17.4 million to date. A reasonable figure, I'm sure you'll agree. So financial well-being is the heart of what we do, but why? Well, quite simply, because research tells us, lots of figures, 53% of employees surveyed that their ability to do their job was being influenced negatively by the cost of living crisis and other factors. 45% of employees are losing sleep over financial stress, and financial distress is costing UK firms a figure running into billions. Financial well-being, of course, isn't a magic pill. It's a journey. Research tells us that 66% of 18 to 34-year-olds feel that their mental health and physical health are being impacted by their finances. And now more than ever, employees need access to tools and resources to help them be proactive with their money and protect themselves against inflation. We are growing our services and we're innovating to put ourselves into a position where we can provide more support to your colleagues. We will not, however, lose sight of the importance of retirement of the local government pension scheme and indeed the unique benefit that is your AVC. Shared cost AVCs is something members are entitled to, however, it is an employer decision to implement. Shared cost AVCs, I'm sure you know plenty about, a very tax efficient way of saving for your retirement. Members save on both national insurance and tax, be it 8% or 2% in the national insurance, 20 or 40% tax. Of course, in the local government pension scheme, you do have the ability to take the whole pot back as tax-free cash, which is a really unique benefit. Even other public sector schemes can't avail of that. And of course, via reduction in employer national insurance, employees, not only do they save, but employers benefit, as I've alluded to already. Okay, how does it all work then? How do these shared cost AVCs work? Okay, so on screen you'll be able to see a simple pay slip. So I'm going to take you through this journey and introduce you to Joe. He earns £30,000. He's a basic rate taxpayer. That's £2,500 per month. Joe, of course, pays his local government pension scheme. He also pays tax and national insurance, as we all do, and his take-home pay is £19.63. The middle column is Joe is paying a standard AVC. So that's what's been available to you all for 20 plus years. The reason Joe would do this is because of tax. Okay, his AVC contribution is taken off a salary before he pays tax. So in this example, £250. That reduces his tax bill from 258 to 208. So he's saving £50 a month in tax, and therefore the AVC contribution is costing 200. You can see that from the reduction in his net pay. Okay, a shared cost AVC then, let me just introduce you to this. To give it its full title, it is a shared cost AVC via salary sacrifice. A long-winded title, I know. I will refer to it as a shared cost AVC for the rest of today. And the first thing I'll draw your attention to is the £250. That has not changed, and that £250 will go to the AVC provider. That's not what we at My Money Matters do. That is invested by your AVC providers. So that's unchanged. The shared cost element is because the £250 is now divided in two. Okay, not equally in two. The employee contribution is now £1, and the employer is deemed to be paying the difference. So in this case, £249. Okay, now we'll talk about the employer savings in a moment or two, but of course the employer is not paying £249 for Joe's AVC. What the employer asks the employee to do is to sacrifice that same amount from his top line salary. So you can see there that the £2,500 has come down to 2,251. Okay, a couple of really important points here to note. Number one is that the pension scheme, the local government pension scheme, is not affected in any way, shape, or form. Not all salary sacrifice schemes work the same. So you will see that Joe's contribution remains 16250. Okay, so he's paying the same amount of money in to get the same back. And that is because the local government pension scheme is based on notional salary, which is the salary before the sacrifice. So let's be very clear on that. Okay. The other point to note, and the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed already, that the national insurance has been reduced. Okay, this is quite simply because Joe's national insurance is calculated on the post-sacrifice salary, so the 2251. Okay, so you'll see that his national insurance has been reduced, and therefore his take-home pay has gone up. It's a very important message to note in a cost of living crisis. So to bring that to life for you, thanks to these national insurance savings, Joe's £250 AVC is no longer costing him £200. It's now only costing £180 and 8 pence. An extra saving of nearly £20, as you can see. It's a very cost-efficient way of your employees saving for retirement. Okay. As we know from the recent budget, however, the employer national insurance is due to increase to 15% in April 25, making the move to shared cost AVCs even more appealing than it was before. And you can see the figure on screen is for all of our employers through shared cost AVCs, 46 million so far. Okay, time for a quick case study. One of your members, Blackpool Council, Partnered with My Money Banners back in 2020. You can see on screen they have over 3,000 members, over 250 people now paying into AVCs, over a third of their staff having registered for the My Money Matters platform. And I will update this again, hot off the press this morning. Blackpool have now saved over 457,000, so we're creeping towards that 500,000 mark. Okay, a few testimonials. I'm just going to leave this on screen. I'm not going to read them to you. You will be sent a copy of the slides later. You can read them in your own time. And now what I will do is just touch on some of the additional services that are referred to earlier on. Okay. We all know that one of the most daunting decisions to make when it comes to paying AVCs is how to invest your money. Many pension funds have aided this decision by selecting a default fund for their members. However, that is not always the case. To aid this decision-making process, we have partnered with an FCA regulated company to make your members through take your members, through the investment journey. This can help the member, of course, choose the right fund or funds to help them potentially lead to increased participation for the employer. We also have a partnership with a company called Snoop. That's to help your members budget for the future. Particularly beneficial during a cost of living crisis. Snoop's free and it will help track spend and set budgets, cut bills, and control the finances of your members, your employees. Our partnership with Mortgage Advice Bureau will give your staff access to an extensive network of advisors and offers personal consultations. Pardon me. Too quick on the button there, Gordon. Our partnership with Mortgage Advice Bureau will give staff access to an extensive network of advisors and offers personal consultations. And last but not least, for now, the will guys, a partnership which will give your employees access to guidance on estate planning and a tailored will writing service. And I should point out that this is not available for in Northern Ireland, which I found out when I applied myself. I'm not ashamed to say that I am one of those UK individuals, one of those UK adults without a will. Not ashamed at all. And now time for questions, comments, concerns, anything.
Thanks,
Gordon?
Tim. That's been really helpful. So we've got plenty of time for questions. I haven't seen anything in the chat, but has anybody got anything particular? And feel free to unmute and ask a question. If not, I've got a couple that I can throw in.
You curveballs for me, Gordon?
No, they're not curveballs. I'll think of those towards the end. So I suppose if we go back to AVCs, the arguments are pretty compelling. You know, the financial arguments when you set them out like that. But are we seeing an increase in people taking up either AVCs or shared cost AVCs? Because the context of, you know, that we've all been through in the last few years of cost of living crisis, continued high inflation, etc., or reducing but still high. And people, you know, that practicality of people being able to afford to set more money aside than they're already paying into the pension. So what direction of travel are we getting?
I mean, it's a really interesting question, Gordon, and one, of course, we've been asked many a time. I mean, what I'm not seeing is a reduction in people paying AVCs. Okay, and actually, if I can supply these figures for you at some point, actually, the average premium for AVCs used to be £250, hence why we use that example in the slides. Actually, it's creeping upwards up towards £300. Okay, and I think probably the reason for that, Gordon, and the big thing that My Money Matters offers for your staff, for your members, is education. Because if you can put this AVC, this thing that we all hold so dearly, it is a local government AVC after all. We're here to help your staff understand it I think if people can understand the local government pension scheme, understand how AVCs can maybe help them retire earlier, or potentially just retire with a bigger lump sum. I think if we can bring that education piece to people, actually more people will pay in. But it's not really our decision as to whether someone should pay an AVC or not. But if we can help educate people, I think
Yeah.
that's our job done, I think.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. That's helpful. Thanks. And I was just wondering whether anybody wants any more detail on any of the other aspects. Obviously, focused a bit on AVCs, but
Yeah.
you ran through some other slides. And I suppose the one that you went over fairly quickly was it an app called, is it Snoop?
Snoop, yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? Just what people get from that?
Yeah, and again, it's a budgeting app. So it links, if you wish, it links to your bank account. It'll give you a review of your spending, which I found quite stark what I spend my money on. But it's really useful for people setting budgets for cutting costs. On different utilities and things like that. So I mean, it's something you can download. You'll see it. Your members will see it on our platform, of course. But it's free to use, Gordon. So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you get nothing out of it, that it saves you a couple of pound on a utility, I think it would be worthwhile.
yeah,
But as I say, you and I were talking about it earlier, as we expand these services to appeal to more of your workforce. I know AVCs are very close to my heart, but they're not to everyone's. So
no,
at,
absolutely.
at a certain point in life, of course, yes, but I think that's the My Money Matters mantra,
Yeah, and I
is
think and
to appeal to more.
I think that's where it's helpful, just broadening this out from AVCs, which are, they're not niche, but as you say, people in certain circumstances will be interested in them. But just to that broader, how well are we all managing our money and having
Mm,
tools and tips available, I think is just increasingly important for people.
absolutely.
So I've got quite a few people on the call, but all very quiet. So I've got no additional questions at this point. Tim, is there
Okay.
anything else? Are there any kind of thoughts you want to leave us with?
I don't think so for today. I mean, I hope that people aren't asking questions because they've understood what I've said. Didn't need a translator there at all. But no, I think we'll be sending the slides out, as I've said. If there's any questions that anyone would have, please don't hesitate. I'm sure Gordon, yourselves, and the people at
Yeah, yeah,
PPMA will share my details. Um, but I wouldn't be scared of it. It's not resource heavy. Talk to the PPMA partners that are saving 17 million or whatever the figure was I shared with you earlier on.
yeah. You put
Talk
those
to them.
authorities up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
so
helpful.
I think my final point would be, don't take my word for it. Talk to your colleagues.
Yeah, yeah. That's really useful. Tim, thank you ever so much,
You're welcome.
and thank you for those who joined. We run webinars regularly, and you can find out about future webinars on the website, and we'll put details out through emails as well as they get arranged. But thank you, and enjoy the rest of Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.